interesting. So do you remember like a point in time where like would you say like, because some actors will say like they feel like they got to a point where they made it when like they got their first agent or manager, you know what I mean? And they felt like they had somebody to fall back on. Is it that for you? Or do you remember a specific moment when you were actually doing the work where you were like, I think I got it?
Well, there are times I think in the work that you kind of go, yeah, I hit this place and that was really cool, but it's very short lived because you're always sort of striving. And then when you really feel good, you go, well, maybe it wasn't that good because I don't have any awards for myself. Nobody's jumping up and down, and the guy in the show who's really awful, he gets some award, and you got to go, maybe I don't get it,
Yeah.
But I kept waiting for a moment when I could say, yeah, okay, I've arrived. And I've never had that moment.
Really?
Oh no, I never had that moment when people
Wow.
would come up and say, "Oh, I saw you in this," and they maybe see something, but I'm like, really, because I'm just looking for a job. Yeah,
it's probably like what, like a combination.
But I'm good for now, but I'm still trying to.
Yeah.
So I never really had that, and Ghostbusters could have been that. But when the movie came out, it was just the opposite. Everything just dried up in a weird way. So
wow, that's unbelievable.
That was kind of hard to sort of reconcile because, I always thought if I was in a major movie that opened #1 at the box office, that would be it, and that wasn't it. It was just the opposite. It was one of the harder times. So I've never really been comfortable enough. I mean, I am now in the sense that we're pretty good. I think if I didn't work again, I could make it the rest of my life. I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to get to that.
It's so funny because one of my friends, we were all me and my friends, you're our favorite Ghostbuster. And then, but the other day, one of my friends pointed out that not only are you the favorite, but you're also the most relatable Ghostbuster, because you know what I mean? Like, you were the only guy in that situation who was like, kept it real and like, didn't like the most like identifiable, you know what I mean? You're like, no, that would be me in that situation, not the other crazy guys. You know what I mean? Like, they're working with different shit, capturing slime in a box. And you're just like, are we doing this? Or I gotta eat.
Right.
Like,
which is kind of different because in cinema, the black character in the show, it was always kind of hard to relate to him because he died in the first 10 minutes. But it was so it was a little different. And I would see a lot of kids of all persuasions saying, yeah, they really kind of related to Winston, even though they did an episode of Stranger Things, the TV series. And I guess I hadn't seen it, but there was an episode where they dressed up as Ghostbusters, and the black kid, they were saying, "You be Winston," and he was like, "Why I gotta be Winston? I don't want to be." I met him, and he was looking really sad. So he said, "Man, I'm really sorry." He said, "I didn't mean all that what I said, but it was written, and they had me say it." It's okay.
Oh, that's so sad.
All right, she felt so bad about saying you didn't want to be Winston. We're good. We're good.
That's really sweet that he was that aware of it. Like, oh my God, this is terrible. Oh man. Yeah. How much did they let you guys kind of like do like, some creative control over the character and stuff like that? Was it like a free flowing set, or, I can't imagine it being strict, but I feel like there had to be some like improv there and stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of it was always fun, it was almost like family. It was like we were in the middle of this thing. It was a script, of course, written out, but then we'd do that, and then we'd go, okay, how do we, what we do a take that was kind of free, and Bill Murray or whoever would come up with, ideas or lines that, and it was always kind of loose, but it was like family for me because I was the outsider. I mean, Bill, Danny, Harold, Ivan, they had all worked together up in Canada and Saturday Night Live, and so they really kind of had this bond, but it was almost like family because they'd love each other intensely and then they'd hate each other intensely. I was like the the cousin at the table and trying to be polite, but
Yeah, it's always culture shock when those environments are around. Like I feel like sometimes, people I know who are like outside of my own family don't understand how we're arguing one minute and then being
Right.
like, "Are we still getting dinner later?" No, or can you, because they don't understand that dynamic.
Yeah, no, but they were all cool in their own way. And Harold Ramis, he was always the guy who, would just sort of bring common sense and would break things down so he was kind of the glue that sort of held it all together when the tempers went wherever. But
right,
it was a different, it was a different kind of, work experience. I felt the studio in their own way, didn't see Winston as really legitimate. I don't know, a part of the team. I think they wanted Winston to be there. I think what happened was, I'm told, they first had Eddie Murphy in mind, and Eddie, his career was on a level that the other guys were. So it would have been a very different Winston. It would have been a different involvement. Once they didn't get Eddie and they brought me in, kind of this new guy, it's like, well, I think the studios felt, well, why are we giving him all these great lines? Let's use the other guys. So,
wow.
But anyway, that it was a very, I appreciate it more now, 40 years later,
sure,
than I did at the time. So.
Right.
So
was there any kind of awareness on set, like it was going to be a feeling of a big thing, or did you guys kind of walk away afterward and was like, yeah, it was great?
Well, yeah, I think we all, there was a feeling that it's going to be a hit, and the movie's going to be #1, and there was a lot of excitement around it. But in those days, a movie would come out, it'd be #1 in the box office for maybe 2 weeks, and then the next thing would come, and then it would kind of disappear, and I got a lot of movies like that. They came out, they were big for a moment, and then they, disappeared. But and you no longer talk about them. But the thing about Ghostbusters, it was sort of #1 most of that whole, summer. So it stayed there. That was unusual. But what really surprised me was 5 years after, I'd see guys, dressing up as Ghostbusters, and 10 years and 15 years, I run into people with tattoos on their body, and that was it never went away. It never was, that was a surprise. And I felt the studios didn't really catch on until later on. I think the fans sort of embraced it. And of course the cartoons came out.
Yeah.
And that helped, to keep it, but it just never went away. Even 20, 25, 30 years later, pretty much any place I go that if people know I'm there, somebody will show up in some kind of ectomobile. I've seen every imaginable ectomobile, from Volkswagens to, old cars that could barely run,
Right.
Only seen a couple of the really classic Cadillacs, but
that's great.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of but they're very proud of them. I remember going to one of the Ghostbuster guys. They invited me to dinner, and so I accept the invitation. His wife was there. They had an ectomobile, but when he went to the bathroom, the wife said, "Could you please talk to him? He got rid of our car and he got this and I can't drive it. I can't shop with it because people come around and they want to take pictures, and it's like he's really, and then he came back and she got really quiet and very, I'm like, it's amazing that people love the movie in that kind of way, and it's very humbling too. I went to buy a car, and the salesman said, we got this guy. He's a big fan of yours. He has a tattoo of you. And I have a tattoo of me. And he said, yeah. So he calls the guy in. He's this 50-something-year-old, 6'4" white guy, somebody you'd never think was in the comics or any of that stuff.
Right.
And they said, show Ernie your tattoo. And he pulls up his pant leg, and his whole calf was my face,
Wow.
And I thought, God. Wow, I was, I'm like, I want him to work on my car,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I can't believe that they had that they didn't let you do the voice of Winston in the cartoon.
Well, it's kind of a weird thing. they called me about it and they said, well, okay, we're doing this thing, but the director wants to meet with you. So of course you have the job, Ernie. So I'm like, okay, he just wants to meet, hear your voice or whatever. So I go there and we're doing this, which I guess was an audition. I didn't realize it was an audition.
Mm-hmm.
And he stops. He said, "Stop." He says, and he starts to explain to me how Ernie Hudson did it in the movie. And I'm thinking, do you realize I'm Ernie Hudson? You know. So,
oh my God!
But he was somehow disappointed. But the job was still mine, and I was working on some movie. It was like a few days and then I found out that he had cast Arsenio Hall, and I'm like, well, what happened? They said, well, of course, we knew you wouldn't want to do it because you were busy. And so the studio gave me all this. But I think the director must have wanted Arsenio. I don't know really what happened.
Jesus.
But they said, no, we do. Oh, we didn't. If we had known. And I'm like, well, I went into this friggin' reading. I mean, how would you not know?
Yeah.
But so it was always something that kind of I mean, I really like Arsenio, but
sure.
I never understood what that was about. And,
yeah.
There was a few things back in that time that was annoying, but
right.
And for me, being a single dad, I could have used that job. You know,
I was going to say, yeah, you like Arsenio, but not when he's taking work from you. You know.
Yeah, I needed that job.
yeah.
You know, so I mean, Ghostbusters wasn't exactly a big payday, so. Yeah, but it was, you know, it was an interesting time.
Yeah. You have such a distinct voice, character, presence, and I feel like they're like, you know, who's more Ernie Hudson than Ernie Hudson? Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the idea of Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd or Harold Ramis doing the voice for a cartoon, that, you know, I get that they knew they wouldn't, but why they threw me in that category, because I definitely needed the job. I mean, I definitely wanted to do it. So
you're like, I'm flattered, but also payday.
Yeah. And that first movie wasn't exactly a huge payday. I think Bill Murray's per diem was more than my salary. So yeah. So Ghostbusters, it was an interesting, and I think people became aware, but it didn't like suddenly open up doors, and it wasn't career changing in any sense of the, you know.
There's the new Ghostbusters coming out, which I think the trailer looks great, and I'm glad they haven't like overdone it. You know what I mean? Like there's not like a million. It's just the one, and it grabs you right away. It looks. I'm excited, man, because I was really like kind of worried when they said they were gonna do something, and I was like, oh man, this go either way. But it looks good. Are you excited about it?
I'm really excited about my youngest son, the watchmaker I was talking about. He his birthday. Jason Reitman, they did a special screening for me and him, and I love it. I love it. I think he did an amazing job.
Nice.
And I was really happy to because sometimes, you know, no matter what I do, I'm going to try to, you know, promote it, because that's kind of part of the job.
Sure.
But it's nice to be able to say it and mean it. You know, I think it's a great film. The new cast is amazing. And I really felt, because fans have been asking me for almost 40 years, when's the new Ghostbusters, and I think they'll really like this one. The one that Paul Feig did, and no disrespect to him, but I just thought it wasn't Ghostbusters the way, you know, it didn't follow the first two movies, and this one is in that same, you know, that same universe. So
yeah, and even just from the trailer, you can tell it feels the same. It's got, I don't know how they did it, but it's got the same kind of feel to it, you know, and the excitement level is there too. Like my friends and I are just super fucking pumped to go see it.
Yeah, well, I was happy when I got the call that they were doing it, and Jason, you know, Jason Reitman, who was 6 years old, I think, when he did the first movie.
Wow.
So he's kind of always been around, and then sort of established himself as a director on his own right. But the fact that he was going to be directing and producing with his dad, Ivan, who did the first, you know, couple of movies, I was really excited about that, because I really like Jason. I think he's really talented.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just think he's really amazing. I mean, I really, yeah.
That's awesome. And the cast seems great too. One of the kids from Stranger Things is in it, Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a blast too. And do you like when they do that kind of, like you said, the Stranger Things did kind of an homage to it, but I feel like a lot of the 80s stuff is kind of working its way back into mainstream. Is that cool? Or are you like, God, no more 80s?
Yeah,
Like,
no.
I lived through it. I'm done.
Yeah, no,
I love it.
it doesn't bother me. I sort of understood those movies. I mean, a lot of the stuff now is very hard for me to sort of connect to. I
Mhm.
mean, some really great stuff out there, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to sort of find it for me.
Yeah.
And I just thought the 80s was a great time, especially for movies.
Yes.
So yeah, I never got tired of it. People say, "Don't you hate the Ghostbusters song? You must have heard it a million times." And I'm like, not really. It's cool.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I threw up a story on Instagram to share, the whole thing or whatever, what was going on. And I was like, oh, do I do it?
Right.
I was like, is he going to see it and be like, I'm bailing. I'm not coming.
Right.
I'm not doing this. But that makes me happy.
We were legitimately singing it before you got here, Ernie.
Oh,
I couldn't stop all day. It's been in my head. And I was just like, before you came on, I was like, no, you're not gonna. I won't do it now. I won't do it injustice, but it's not bad. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, sometimes when I'm doing another show that has nothing to do with Ghostbusters, because I'm in it, they'll want to throw something in. They did it in LA's Finest. They did it in Family Business. Throw something in that, and so
right.
In Family Business, there's a line where the guy says, "What's the matter? Are you afraid of ghosts?" Meaning afraid of this thing happening. And I say, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. It's just it gets How I Met Your Mother.
No.
The guy is on the street and I come up and say, I want to use your phone, and he says, who are you going to call? So,
I remember that episode.
So yeah, it gets a little weird sometimes, but it's all good.
Dystopia Tonight.